Everyone is listening to the story on the channel The Ambiguous Heart, wishing you deeply emotional and captivating moments. Today, we invite you to the story, The Fallen King, a heartbreaking basketball romance story, Episode 1. The night in Portland was drowned in cold rain. Streaks of highway lights sliced across the wet asphalt like blades of light. Emily Miller stood huddled by the roadside, her hands trembling, not only from the biting wind, but from the message she had just received. Marcus, ready? He's on his way. Emily clenched the old phone tightly. 20 years of living in poverty had never broken her, but 3 months under Marcus's coercion had nearly destroyed her. Marcus, the man who had driven her father's company into bankruptcy through dirty financial schemes. And now, he held her father's criminal records like a noose, forcing Emily to obey. This order was more terrifying than all the others. Get close to Kylan Drexler, NBA basketball superstar, king of the court, the man the entire nation watched with every step he took. Emily bit her lip until it bled. Dad, I'm sorry. The roar of an engine tore through the night. A black Lamborghini Huracan shot down the rain-slick road, its headlights sharp as blades. Emily recognized it instantly. Kylan Drexler's car. At the same time, a truck in the opposite lane suddenly accelerated abnormally fast. Marcus's script had begun. No, please don't! The crash exploded like thunder. The Huracan spun wildly across the road, slammed into the median barrier, its body twisting into mangled metal. Emily ran toward it on instinct. Kylan! Can you hear me? The door burst open as she yanked it hard. Smoke, gasoline, and the stench of scorching metal filled the air. Kylan lifted his face, his eyes unfocused, blood streaming from his temple. Who are you? His words came broken, his breathing chaotic. That gaze, cold yet lost, filled with confusion, made Emily's chest tighten painfully. I'm here. I'll get you out. Don't fall asleep, okay? Her voice was shaking, but her hands were strangely steady. She dragged him out of the driver's seat and laid him on the roadside. His body was heavy, rigid like stone, but Emily did not let go. In the distance, sirens began to wail. Around the wreck, bystanders started to gather, but everything blurred in Emily's vision. All she could see was Kylan's face, streaked with blood, pale and cold, yet his eyes clung to hers as if grasping for life. Don't leave me, Kylan whispered, his voice like a fading breath. Emily swallowed hard. No, I won't leave you. As the paramedics lifted Kylan onto the stretcher, Emily stood frozen, her fists clenched until they turned white. She knew she had just stepped onto a path with no way back. Her phone vibrated. Marcus? Good. Step 1, perfect. Step 2, make him trust you. When he trusts you, he will destroy himself. Emily watched as the ambulance disappeared into the night, her heart tightening painfully. The dark road she had been forced to walk had finally begun. Everyone is listening to the story on the Ambiguous Heart channel, wishing you deeply emotional and captivating moments. Today, we invite you to the story, The Fallen King, When a Basketball Champion Walked Away for Love, Episode 1. The Portland night was drowned in cold rain. Streaks of highway lights slashed across the asphalt like blades of light. Emily Miller stood shivering by the roadside, her hands trembling, not only from the biting wind, but from the message she had just received. Ready? It's coming. Emily tightened her grip on the old phone. 20 years of poverty had never broken her, but 3 months of being coerced by Marcus had nearly destroyed her. Marcus, the man who had driven her father's company into bankruptcy with dirty financial schemes. And now he held her father's criminal records like a noose around her neck, forcing Emily to obey. This order was more terrifying than all the others. Get close to Kylan Drexler, NBA basketball superstar, king of the court, the man the entire nation followed with every step he took. Emily bit her lip until she tasted blood. Dad, I'm sorry. The roar of an engine tore through the night. A black Lamborghini Huracan sped toward her on the wet road, its headlights sharp as blades. Emily recognized it instantly. It was Kylan Drexler's car. At the same time, a truck in the opposite lane suddenly accelerated, unnaturally fast. Marcus's script began. No, please don't! The crash exploded like thunder. The Huracan spun wildly across the road, slammed into the median, its body crumpling in twisted metal. Emily ran toward it on instinct. Kylan, can you hear me? The car door burst open as she yanked it. Smoke, gasoline, and the scorching smell of burning metal filled the air. Kylan lifted his face, his eyes dazed, blood streaming down his temple. Who are you? His words came out in broken gasps, his breathing erratic. Those eyes, cold yet lost, filled with confusion, made Emily's chest tighten painfully. I'm here. I'll get you out. Don't fall asleep, okay? Her voice was shaking, yet her hands were strangely steady. She pulled him from the driver's seat and lowered him to the roadside. His body was heavy, stiff like stone, but Emily did not let go. In the distance, the wail of sirens rose. People began to gather around the wreck, but everything seemed to blur in Emily's vision. All she could see was Kylan's face, streaked with blood, pale and cold, yet his eyes clung to her as if she were his only anchor. Don't leave me, Kylan whispered, his voice barely a breath. Emily swallowed hard. No, I won't leave you. When the medics lifted Kylan onto the stretcher, Emily stood frozen, her hands clenched until they turned white. She knew she had just stepped onto a path with no way back. Her phone vibrated. Marcus? Good. Step 1? Perfect. Step 2? Make him trust you. When he trusts you, he will destroy himself. Emily watched the ambulance disappear into the distance, her heart tightening. The dark road she had been forced to walk had begun. Kylan Drexler woke up in the stark white room of Portland General Hospital. The ceiling light so blinding that he had to shut his eyes immediately. His head felt as if thousands of shards of glass were cutting into it. Where am I? He tried to shift his body, but the pain in his shoulder and chest was so intense that he stiffened. The steady, cold beeping of the monitor echoed beside him. Then the door opened. A voice as soft as a breeze brushed against him. You're awake. Kylan opened his eyes. The girl stood beside the bed, Emily. There was worry in her gaze, yet also calm, and unconsciously his tense shoulders relaxed. Who are you? Kylan asked, his voice hoarse. Emily hesitated for a second. She had prepared for this moment, but her heart still tightened when she heard him speak like that. I'm the person who called the ambulance for you. I was there when the accident happened. The accident. That word made Kylan's chest constrict. A blurry image of a truck flashed through his mind, then vanished like an unfinished dream. Emily continued, her voice gentle but firm. The doctor said you have a mild head injury and temporary memory loss. You need to rest. Kylan stared at her for a long moment. The strangest thing wasn't the loss of memory, but the sense of safety he felt just looking at her face. He didn't know who she was, yet something in those eyes made him believe she wouldn't harm him. How long? Have you been here? He asked. Almost the whole night, Emily replied. She didn't say that she had been trembling in fear that he might stop breathing at any moment. Thank you. Kylan spoke a rare word, one he didn't easily say to anyone. For the next 2 days, Emily stayed at the hospital as his temporary caregiver. She helped him eat, changed his bandages, and supported him as he walked slowly along the corridor when the doctor ordered light movement. At first, Kylan was wary, true to the man he had been before the accident. But the more time he spent with Emily, the more that layer of ice began to crack. Once, as Emily handed him his medicine, her hand trembled slightly. Kylan noticed. Are you afraid of me? He asked. Emily shook her head. I'm afraid of hurting you. Kylan froze for a brief moment, not because of the answer, but because her voice was too genuine. Not the voice of someone trying to please him, to fake closeness, or to approach him for fame. He had met hundreds of such people. Emily was not like them. On the third night, Emily replaced the cold compress on his forehead. Kylan lay still, his narrowed eyes quietly observing her. You don't ask about my wealth. You don't ask about my team. You don't ask to take pictures. He paused, then continued, Everyone else does. Emily lowered her head. I don't care about those things. Then what do you care about? Kylan asked, not as an interrogation, but with genuine curiosity. Emily took a deep breath. Dad? I'm sorry. She couldn't tell the truth. I care about whether you live. Kylan was stunned. Throughout his career, he had heard countless flattering, flowery words, but no one had ever told him that, so simply and sincerely. The next morning, the doctor informed him that he could be discharged early, but he would need someone to assist him for a few weeks. Kylan looked at Emily. She stood silently, unsure whether she should stay or step back to avoid trouble. But he had already decided, Emily. Kylan's voice dropped, serious. Move into my penthouse. I need someone I can trust, and I trust you. Emily's throat tightened. He trusts me. If he knew who I really am, he would never say that. But for her father, for her fear of Marcus, for everything she had already been dragged into, she had no choice but to nod. Kylan saw her hesitation, but didn't understand its cause. He only thought, this girl is too genuine, so genuine that it makes me want to protect her. Kylan Drexler's penthouse sat at the very top of a luxurious glass tower, offering a view of nearly all of Portland. But when Emily stepped inside, what overwhelmed her wasn't the extravagance. It was the cold silence that blanketed the space. The apartment was flawless in its beauty, yet it held no warmth. She wondered. A man living alone in absolute wealth, with nothing but darkness for company all these years. How lonely must he have been? The first days in the penthouse passed in an unfamiliar rhythm. Emily prepared breakfast for Kylan, partly because it was her task, but partly because she realized he didn't really know how to take care of himself. Did you sleep well? Emily asked as she set a glass of smoothie on the table. Kylan stared at the smoothie as if she had placed a strange object on the walnut table. Did I used to drink this? Emily let out a soft laugh. You drank it every morning. A protein smoothie to maintain muscle. Kylan raised an eyebrow. So I'm someone who likes drinking this strange thing? Emily nodded, holding back a smile. Not just likes, you really like it. Kylan looked at her for a few seconds, then shrugged and took a long drink. He grimaced. This flavor should be banned from competition. Emily burst into real laughter. A small sound, yet it made Kylan's heart subtly tremble. He suddenly thought, maybe losing his memory was a kind of blessing, because he could now look at this life with new eyes. And those eyes, at this very moment, saw only Emily. The weeks of rehabilitation began. Emily took Kylan to the sports medicine center every day. At first, he kept his distance, but then, Emily, where are you standing? Right here. And that blurry shadow? That's the doctor, Kylan. Oh. He only felt at ease when Emily touched his hand, steadied his balance, and spoke to him in a gentle yet firm voice. Then came the first training sessions with the basketball. Kylan hadn't regained 100% of his reflexes yet, but his body remembered. Before every shot, Emily handed him a bottle of water, lightly placed her hand on his shoulder, and said the familiar line, "Go win this for yourself." That small sentence was like a key unlocking a door inside him. In Kylan's eyes, Emily was no longer just a caregiver. She was motivation, the reason he wanted to return to the court. He had fallen in love with her without realizing it. But as their feelings grew, the darkness tightened its grip. One evening, Emily's phone vibrated. The sender's name appeared on the screen, M.H. Marcus Hale. She shuddered. The message read, "Send me the small file from the Drexler Company's secondary server. That's all. Do it." Emily clenched her phone so tightly her knuckles turned white. She didn't want to. She couldn't. But her father was still in Marcus's hands. Kylan was asleep in the living room, his breathing steady, his face wearing a rare look of peace. Emily looked at him, her heart tightening. "I'm sorry, Kylan." She opened the laptop, trembling as she downloaded the file Marcus demanded. Just one file, one command, one small cut that she knew would leave a massive wound on Kylan. The next morning, a flood of urgent emails from the Drexler Company's legal department. Contracts stolen, projects sabotaged, stock prices plunging. At the same time, an anonymous article broke the news that Kylan's team was using banned substances. The media exploded. Jordan, his best friend and teammate, stormed into the penthouse, slamming the door open. "Kylan, do you know what's going on? The team is on fire because of that damn doping rumor." Kylan remained silent. He had just come back from a press conference, exhausted from having to explain to the entire world that he had nothing to do with any banned substances. Jordan looked around and spotted Emily in the kitchen. A flash of suspicion crossed his eyes. "Yesterday I saw her meeting some stranger. The guy didn't look clean at all." "Kylan." Kylan's voice turned icy. "Stop." Jordan frowned. "You really trust her that much?" Kylan didn't hesitate. "Yes, I trust her." Emily stood frozen. There wasn't a trace of doubt in Kylan's eyes. She broke into tears. Not because of guilt, but because that trust hurt so deeply she could barely breathe. Kylan stepped forward and placed his hand on her shoulder. "It's okay, Emily. Everything will be fine. I trust you." Emily pressed her face into his palm, hot tears streaming down. "Don't trust me. Kylan, I don't deserve it." Everyone is listening to the story on the Ambiguous Heart channel. If this story has touched your emotions, don't forget to subscribe to follow the next episodes. 3 weeks passed. Drexler Corporation's stock was still in free fall. The team struggled under the media's relentless pressure as the doping rumors refused to die down. Yet Kylan remained unshaken for just one reason. Emily was always by his side. She didn't just take care of him. She was like a hand pulling him out of the darkness he had been trapped in for years. And then, the fateful day arrived. The day of the 7th basketball game, the most crucial final of the season. Portland burned like a sea of fire. Crowds packed the stadium. The press clung to every movement without letting go. In the locker room, Kylan picked up the familiar water bottle on the table, the one Emily was supposed to bring him before every match. But she still hadn't appeared. "Where's Emily?" Kylan asked Mason, his assistant. "She said she'd be here right after a call from—" "Ah, right. Someone called her just now," Mason replied. A chill ran straight down Kylan's spine, because at that exact moment, Emily's phone and Kylan's phone received the same message from Kylan's ex-girlfriend. "I gave birth to your child," along with a photo of a bright-eyed baby with the same blue eyes Kylan had as a child. Emily's entire body froze. The world in front of her blurred, as if all the air had been sucked out of the room. His child? No, it couldn't be. But her heart didn't listen to reason. It only heard one screaming voice: "You don't deserve him." Kylan frowned as he read the message. Confusion and even irritation showed clearly on his face. "Emily, this." He didn't even get to finish. Emily stepped back, her eyes like someone who had just fallen into an abyss. "Do you already have a child?" "Emily, listen to me." She shook her head, her voice choking. I need some air." Emily turned and ran, her heart shattering into 1,000 pieces. But she didn't know that. That pain was only half of the real catastrophe. The moment she stepped into the elevator, Emily received another email. Sender, A. Thomas, confidential. The initials of the man who had once received data from her, the subordinate Marcus had forced into submission. The email contained only one line. "Marcus is the one who bankrupted your father's company. I have proof, but he's found out. They're hunting me down. You must come help me immediately." Emily was struck dumb. The mastermind behind her father's downfall. It was Marcus. He had destroyed her life, and then used that very desperation to force her into becoming a spy. Her legs went weak. "Dad, everything you suffered was because of him." If the evidence was lost, she could never save her father. If that man died, she would be trapped under Marcus's control forever. She had to go. Now. Immediately. No time to text Kylan. No time to explain. No time even for a goodbye. And she didn't want him to see her collapse over that love child message either. Emily bolted out of the penthouse, dragging her suitcase so hurriedly it slammed against the wall. The building's security guard looked at her. "Ms. Emily? Where are you going? The game is about to." "I'm sorry, I have to leave right now." She threw herself into a taxi and shut the door, tears welling up but not falling. "I'm sorry, Kylan. I can't let you get dragged into this. I can't let my father die. And I can't stand there, facing the truth that you already belong to someone else." The car pulled away from the city center. The door between Emily and Kylan's world slammed shut. She vanished like a shadow, leaving behind only a security camera recording her frantic escape, a clip that, just minutes later, Kylan would replay over and over in despair. The roar from Rose Arena thundered into the waiting room like rolling thunder. Tens of thousands of fans were on edge for the 7th basketball game, the championship match that would decide the entire season. But Kylan Drexler was only staring at the door. In every previous game, Emily would walk in, hand him his water, adjust his wrist tape, and smile softly. "Go win this for yourself." But today, no knock, no footsteps, no smile, no Emily. Jordan slapped his shoulder hard. "Bro, 5 minutes until tip-off. Portland is waiting for you to make history." No response. Jordan frowned. "Hey, are you listening to me?" Kylan didn't answer, his eyes still fixed on the door as if, by staring long enough, Emily would walk in. Jordan sighed. "It's because of that message about the kid, right? Don't let it. Don't talk about Emily." Kylan cut him off, his voice so cold and deep that Jordan froze mid-sentence. Just then, the door burst open. Kylan's heart leapt. Emily. But it wasn't her. It was Mason, his personal assistant, his face deathly pale. "Boss, Emily has left, in a hurry. She didn't tell anyone." The air turned solid. Kylan spun toward him. "What did you say?" "I saw her dragging a suitcase. She looked like she was terrified of something." Kylan snatched his phone and opened the security feed. Emily appeared on the screen. Running out of the elevator, eyes red, her hand gripping the suitcase so tightly her knuckles were white. His heart dropped into his chest. She really left. Jordan rushed up and grabbed his shoulders. Kylan, stay calm. You have to go on the court. This is the finals. No one walks out now. Kylan looked at Jordan. One glance was enough to choke him silent. I have to find her. Jordan shouted. If you leave, you destroy your career. The whole city is waiting for you. Kylan's fists clenched. If I don't go now, I'll lose her forever. Jordan tried to stop him. Kylan, she's just Jordan. Kylan cut in, his voice low but razor sharp. She is not just anything. She is the person I chose to place my trust in. Jordan stood frozen. He had never seen Kylan speak about anyone like that. Kylan threw the towel onto the chair, walked straight out, leaving behind the noise, his teammates, his fame, the championship trophy, everything. Jordan shouted after him, Kylan, if you walk out that door, you'll never be the same again. But the door had already slammed shut. Inside a taxi heading west of the city, Emily clutched her bag, her head leaning against the window as it rattled over potholes. Her phone vibrated. She answered immediately. Where are you? I'm coming right now. Don't let anyone see you. Hide carefully. I'll protect the evidence. You just stay alive. From the other end came broken, panicked breathing. Marcus has found me. Then the signal cut off. Emily bit her lip until it bled. She knew, if she didn't make it in time, that man would die. And Marcus's crimes would be buried forever. Her father and Kylan would never be cleared. The taxi sped off, leaving behind the lights of Rose Arena, where a man was losing everything because of one false message and one girl who couldn't tell the truth. At the arena, chaos exploded. Twitter, Instagram, the media all erupted at once. Kylan Drexler is absent? King of the Court skips the finals? Portland collapses over a woman? Fans raged. Shareholders panicked. The team spiraled. Drexler Corporation's stock kept crashing. In a high-rise office, Marcus watched the live stream and smirked. Perfect. And Kylan? He drove like a man possessed, speeding through street after street, his voice hoarse. Emily, where are you? The city of Portland exploded. News that Kylan Drexler had abandoned the championship spread across social media in less than 20 minutes, turning into an unprecedented wave of fury. A sports commentator slammed the desk on live television. He betrayed the fans. He betrayed the team. No one walks out of a Game 7 without saying a word. Kylan was branded with the worst nicknames imaginable. Traitor, cowardly champion, a star who destroyed his own career. Fans outside the arena tore up his posters and threw his jerseys onto the ground. Sponsors sent emails threatening to pull contracts worth tens of millions of dollars. Shareholders of the Drexler family company demanded an emergency meeting, calling to temporarily suspend his executive role. But Kylan read none of it. He attended no meetings. He answered no reporters. He only drove, street after street, calling Emily's name again and again on the tracking app, with not a single signal in return. His assistant Mason called, Kylan, the media is losing their minds. You have to come back to the team. Check every traffic camera at rest stops, hotels, bus terminals. She passed through somewhere. I won't stop. On the other side of the city, Emily was in a completely different world. The old warehouse where she was hiding still smelled of metal, sawdust, and antiseptic. The man Marcus was hunting, the one who had been forced to act as Emily's middleman, was lying in the corner, barely breathing. Emily had just finished bandaging his wound. Her hands shook as he struggled to press a small USB drive into her palm. You must keep this. Inside are the financial transactions. Marcus used them to bankrupt your father. Emily clenched the USB tightly. It was small enough to swallow in a single breath, yet its weight was enough to bring down an entire criminal empire and save her father. She slipped the USB into the inner lining of her jacket, close to her heart. Thank you. I'll get you out of here as soon as I erase all the traces. The man gave a painful laugh. You really are insane, daring to take on Marcus alone. No, Emily said, her voice tight. I'm not alone. I have a reason to do this. If Kylan knew, he would charge straight into danger again, just to protect her. She couldn't let that happen. As the sun began to rise, Emily helped the man escape Portland through a cargo truck route, the only path Marcus had not yet fully secured. She stood and watched the vehicle disappear onto the highway. She had saved a life, and she had obtained the first missing piece in the most dangerous game of her life. Pulling her cap low over her face, Emily melted into the morning crowd. She didn't know that, on the other side of the city, Kylan was standing in front of a sea of protesters, surrounded by hundreds of reporters amid furious shouting, while in his heart there was only one question. Emily, what are you running from that I don't know? That afternoon, Emily stood inside a shabby temporary room, her heart trembling with every breath. The USB in her hand contained enough to drive Marcus into a frenzy, but not enough to end everything. She had to continue. She had to find more evidence. She had to save her father. And most importantly, she had to stop Marcus from getting anywhere near Kylan. But there was one thing she had to do immediately: the truth about the child. That message couldn't possibly be real. Kylan wasn't the kind of man who would hide something like that. Because of that message, he abandoned Game 7. Because of it, Emily's heart shattered and she ran away. She had to know the truth before deciding what came next. Emily went to the old apartment complex on the outskirts of Portland, where the friend of Kylan's ex-girlfriend had once lived. She knocked 3 times. A middle-aged woman opened the door, her eyes wary. "Who are you looking for?" I'm asking about Haley Parker's child," Emily said slowly. The woman stiffened suddenly. After a few seconds, she opened the door a little wider. "Come in." The door closed, shutting out the noisy traffic outside. In the small kitchen, the woman sighed. "You're Emily, aren't you? The girl Haley sent the fake email to." Emily froze. "You knew?" "I'm Haley's aunt, and I was the one who took her to the hospital when she no longer had enough money to treat the baby." She pulled out a medical file. The baby was born prematurely. The real father was a man who had run away. Haley was desperate, with no money. Then one day, a large sum of money was transferred into her account. Emily's eyes widened. "From Marcus?" "Yes." Haley's aunt nodded. "One of his subsidiary companies. I warned Haley not to get involved, but she was begging for help, and he asked her to do just one thing. Send the message to Kylan," Emily whispered. The woman nodded, her eyes wet. Haley was wrong, but everything was just to save her son. Emily clenched her hands. In that moment, every broken fragment of her heart snapped together into a single blinding truth. The child was not Kylan's. The message was fake, and Marcus was behind all of it. Emily turned to leave, but Haley's aunt called after her. "Haley regrets it deeply. If she knew that he threw away his entire career just to find you, she might go and confess everything herself." Emily stopped short. What did he do? The whole city is talking about it. He abandoned the championship, abandoned the team, abandoned his entire career just to look for you. Emily collapsed onto a chair. She hadn't known. She truly hadn't known. She thought she was only a burden. Her throat tightened. "Kylan, he's really searching for me?" Haley's aunt nodded. "All night, no sleep, no stopping." 1 hour later, Emily stood at the door of the small apartment where Haley was temporarily staying. She took a deep breath and knocked. Haley appeared, thinner, more exhausted, guilt flooding her eyes. "Emily, I'm sorry." Emily spoke softly. "I didn't come to blame you. I just want to hear it from your own mouth." Haley burst into tears. "He's not Kylan's child. I swear. I only wanted to save my son. I didn't think things would go this far." Emily looked down at the baby sleeping in the crib, tiny, wrapped in a blanket, breathing softly like a whisper of wind. "I understand your situation." Haley trembled. "If you want, I'll go to Kylan myself and tell him the truth." Emily looked out the window, where the city was still reeling from the shock of the abandoned final. "No, I'll tell him myself. That's enough. And I have to see him, right now." But as Emily left the apartment building, before she could even reach the bottom of the stairs, a soft sound rang out behind her. Emily turned around. 2 men in black jackets, the unmistakable look of Marcus's underlings, were closing in. "Where are you going, Emily?" One of them sneered. "The boss is looking for you." Emily stepped backward. Her heart pounded violently. The story was now turning onto a far more dangerous path, but also the one where she would meet again the man who was willing to abandon his crown just to find her. The night wind swept through the empty alley like an icy blade slicing into the skin. Emily pulled her hood tighter, her hands trembling as she read the final message from the man who had helped her escape Marcus. "They've found me. Emily, don't come back. Run." She stood frozen. For the first time in months, real fear tightened around her throat. But no, she couldn't turn back. She couldn't let an innocent person die because of her. Emily dashed into the dark alley, and at that exact moment, heavy footsteps thundered behind her. A hoarse, ice-cold voice rang out, "Catch her! Marcus wants the girl alive, but not in one piece." Emily turned her head and saw three men closing in. One of them was holding a drug-soaked cloth. She ran. Her feet pounded against the ground, her breath choking in her chest. The sound of their shoes echoed right behind her. "Don't let her escape!" Emily swerved sharply into an abandoned parking lot. Her heart felt like it was about to explode. If she were caught, Marcus wouldn't just take her life. Suddenly, a hand shot out from the darkness and yanked her back. Emily struggled in terror. "No! Let go of me! Let!" That voice made her entire body freeze. "Emily." She stopped breathing. In the shadows, the most familiar eyes of her life were looking down at her, the eyes she thought she would never see again. Kylan. He pulled her into a hidden corner, pressed a finger to her lips, signaling silence. The men rushed past without noticing them. It took Emily several seconds to find her voice. "Kylan?" He didn't answer. He only crushed her into his chest. So tightly, it was as if he needed to be sure she was truly alive in front of him. His shoulders trembled. You're driving me insane." His voice broke, for the first time in his life, no longer carrying the unshakable strength of the king of the court. Emily burst into tears at those words. All the guilt, longing, and the overwhelming sense of being protected came crashing over her like a flood. "I'm sorry. I didn't mean to." Kylan cupped her face with both hands, forcing her to look straight at him. "Don't apologize. Just tell me you're safe." Emily shook her head, tears spilling onto his hands. "I'm not safe." At that moment, Kylan's eyes changed, from pain to a burning, violent fury. "Who is it?" His voice was low, dangerous enough to make the darkness itself recoil. Emily trembled. "Kylan, don't get involved. They can kill you." Kylan pulled her even closer. "I would rather die than let you disappear from my life again." Emily broke down, burying her face in his chest. No one said anything more. They only held each other tightly, as if they let go, both of them would vanish. And that night, in a temporarily safe apartment, when the fear had finally receded, when Kylan was still holding her, as though afraid she might disappear, they belonged to each other for the first time. No more distance, no more lies, only two hearts that had been hurt too deeply and could no longer let go ever again. You are listening to the story on the ambiguous heart. If you find this story captivating, don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you won't miss the next parts. The morning after that fateful night, early sunlight filtered through the thin curtains and fell across Emily's face. She opened her eyes and saw Kylan sitting beside the bed, his back against the wall, his eyes fixed on her as if he dared not blink. He was exhausted, but he hadn't moved an inch. "Last night, you abandoned me again." His voice was hoarse, yet his gaze softened the moment he saw her awake. Emily pulled the blanket closer, her heart tightening. "I didn't want to drag you into this." Kylan leaned down, placing his hand on her cheek. "You are the only thing I want to be dragged into." That sentence shattered the last line of defense in Emily's heart. She forced a smile, but tears that slipped down anyway. I have something to tell you." Her hand gently tightened around his wrist and guided him to rest it on her flat belly. Kylan froze, one heartbeat, then another. The whole world fell silent. "Emily?" His voice was barely able to form the word. She nodded softly, her breath trembling. "I'm pregnant. It's your child." Kylan covered his face for a few seconds, not from shock, but from a sudden, overwhelming happiness after so many dark months. Then he pulled her into his arms, holding her so tightly Emily could hardly breathe. "Thank you, my God, thank you." Emily laughed through her tears, clutching his shirt. In that moment, she thought, maybe all the suffering had been worth it. But happiness never lasts long. That afternoon, when Kylan went out to buy food and vitamins for her, Emily saw a message from Marcus appear on her phone screen, the very SIM card she thought she had already destroyed to avoid being traced. "If you don't send me the Phoenix Project blueprints within 24 hours, I'll take the baby in your womb first. Choose the Drexler Company or your child's life." Emily went numb. She gripped the edge of the table until her knuckles turned white. Her throat burned dry. No. Marcus couldn't be allowed to know she was pregnant. If he knew, he wouldn't just use the baby as leverage. He would erase both mother and child completely. Emily trembled so violently the phone slipped from her hand and crashed onto the floor. She wondered, how long had Marcus been watching her? Did he already know she had met Kylan again? Had he somehow even found out about the baby? Her heart felt crushed in an invisible fist. She couldn't let Kylan know. She couldn't let him get dragged in. Marcus wanted the data. But if Emily sent the documents, she would personally destroy Kylan's career with her own hands. She hugged her stomach, sank to the floor, gasping for breath. What am I supposed to do now? That evening, Kylan returned with bags full of food and vitamins. Seeing Emily curled up on the bed, her eyes red and swollen, his worry instantly flared. Are you in pain anywhere? I'll take you to the hospital. No, no. Emily shook her head quickly, forcing her breathing to steady. I'm just scared. Kylan sat down, pulled her into his arms, his large hand gently patting her back. You don't have to be afraid anymore. I'm here now. Emily bit her lip, her hands clutching tightly to his shirt. He didn't know that because of him, she could no longer stay. If she stayed by his side, Marcus would never stop. The more she loved him, the more she had to leave. Kylan placed his hand on her belly, his eyes so warm it hurt to look at. You've given me the most precious thing in my life. I will protect you and our child, at any cost. Emily closed her eyes, a single tear slipping free. Because of that sentence, she became absolutely certain of one thing. She could not keep betraying him. She could not let him lose everything because of her. She could not allow Marcus to use the baby as a weapon. She had to stop. She had to fight Marcus. And to do that, she had to leave Kylan. Night fell swiftly. The penthouse was unnaturally silent, a kind of silence that nearly suffocated Emily. Kylan had fallen asleep on the sofa after a long day of caring for her without leaving her side for a moment. His hand was still resting on her belly, as if letting go for even 1 second would make her disappear. Emily stood there, quietly watching him. The warm yellow light cast over the face of the man who had sacrificed everything for her. The man who gave up his title, his career, his historic championship game, just to find her. Emily lifted her hand and traced the line of his cheek. I'm sorry. The words escaped only as a breath. She leaned down and pressed a soft kiss to his forehead, so light like a farewell she would never be allowed to say. The next morning, Kylan woke with a rare smile. He reached out beside him. Empty. Cold sheets. No Emily. He bolted upright. Emily? No answer. In the bedroom. Empty. In the kitchen? Empty. In the bathroom? Empty. His voice echoed through the penthouse, answered only by chilling silence. Kylan staggered through the place in a frenzy. Emily, are you joking? Come out! But the more he called, the deeper his heart sank into a hollow he knew all too well. The first time she left, he had lost everything. This time, he wasn't sure he would survive it. Emily, at that very moment, was standing at a suburban night bus station. Cold wind sliced through her thin clothes, sending a faint shiver through her body. In her hand was not a suitcase, only a small bag with the bare essentials. Beside her stood a pale blue cradle. Inside, a newborn stirred softly, tiny hands grasping at the air as if searching for its mother's warmth. Emily bent down, trembling as she adjusted the blanket around her child. My love, I'm sorry. She placed inside the cradle a silver bracelet engraved with the name Drexler, the first gift Kylan had given her when he learned she was pregnant. Then she placed a folded note beside it, her handwriting shaky but clear. Let your father love you with all his heart. You belong to him. Your mother does not. Tears streamed endlessly, not because she didn't love her child, not because she didn't love Kylan, but because staying would mean Marcus would track her trail, endanger the baby's life, force her to keep stealing documents, and destroy Kylan's entire career once again. If Kylan ever found out she had once been Marcus's spy, he would collapse. If Marcus learned she had stopped providing information, the baby would be his first victim. Only if she left would anyone still have a chance to live. Emily knelt down, clutched the cradle for a long time, and kissed the baby's forehead. You must live. You must be safe. Kylan will protect you better than I ever could. A bus pulled in. The doors opened. Emily wiped her tears, drew in a deep breath, and stood up. She didn't look back. She couldn't look back. She stepped onto the bus, the doors closed, and the bus disappeared into the night, carrying a mother who was tearing her own heart apart. At the same time, Kylan was running like a madman toward the building's security cameras. On the screen, a single image nearly brought him to his knees. Emily standing beside a small cradle, bending down for a long time, kissing the baby one last time. Then she stepped onto a bus and vanished from the frame. Kylan's body went numb. He pressed his hand against the screen, his voice breaking. Emily, what did you do? A faint cry behind him snapped him out of the shock. Kylan turned around. In the center of the lobby was the cradle, was his child. Rosy cheeks, two small hands reaching into the air as if searching for its mother. Kylan walked forward slowly, as if one step too hard might shatter the entire world. He knelt down. The baby wrapped its tiny hand around his finger, and in that exact moment, Kylan's heart completely collapsed. She was gone, for the second time, leaving behind nothing but a child and a love torn to pieces. The vast penthouse that once symbolized glory is now filled only with the cries of a newborn intertwined with the heavy breathing of an exhausted man. Kylan Drexler, the former NBA basketball star, sits on the sofa, worn down to the bone. He cradles the newborn in his arms, the child whose eyes resemble Emily's so painfully. No one could have believed it. The man whose name once echoed across America now sits alone in silence, sleepless with an infant and a shattered heart. Emily is gone, again, without a message, without an explanation. She left behind only their son and vanished as if she had never existed. But the real storm arrived 24 hours later. Marcus sent an email. Inside were countless videos, files, and messages. Emily handing a USB to one of Marcus's subordinates, a bank account receiving money from one of his shell companies, security footage of her sneaking into Kylan's office, a message, "Don't forget your mission." The final line made his blood run cold. She never loved you. She only played her role before bringing you down. Kylan crushed the phone in his grip until his knuckles turned white. He didn't want to believe it, but all the evidence pointed straight at him, like cold, sharp blades. Jordan came the next morning and placed a hand on his shoulder. Kylan, you have to prepare yourself. Maybe she really... No. Kylan cut him off, his voice hoarse from sleepless nights. Emily isn't that kind of person. But the moment he said it, his chest tightened. He remembered the times she cried, the times she looked at him as if she wanted to say something, but couldn't. Maybe she truly was being forced. Maybe she had no choice. He looked down at the baby sleeping in his arms. If she was a traitor, why would she give birth to his child? Why would she leave alone and abandon their son behind? No, it couldn't be. He whispered into the soft hair of his baby. I won't believe anything until your mother says it to me herself. 6 months passed. Kylan never returned to the court. He gave no interviews. He disappeared completely from public view. He vanished from the NBA, just as Emily vanished from his life. For 6 months, people only saw Kylan carrying his child through the streets of Portland, asking strangers if they had seen Emily, collecting every tiny fragment of a clue, living like a ghost, searching relentlessly for the woman who shattered his heart and took half of his soul with her. The living room turned into an investigation war room. Traffic camera footage, taxi license plates, maps of every route Emily might have taken, information about remote mountain areas where she might be hiding. One day, Jordan visited him again. Looking at the walls covered in maps and notes, he choked back his words. Kylan, you can't keep destroying yourself like this. Emily is gone. You have to accept the truth. Kylan lifted his head, his eyes exhausted yet sharp as blades. I will accept the truth when I hear it from Emily's own lips. Jordan was about to speak again when a knock echoed at the door. A strange man with a bruised face stepped inside. He trembled as he looked at Kylan. Are you Kylan Drexler? Kylan stood up, pulling his child tightly to his chest. Who are you? The man swallowed hard. I'm the one Emily saved. She's still alive. The man standing at the door had a deathly pale face, the panicked eyes of someone who had been running from death for days. Jordan immediately grew cautious, placing a hand on Kylan's shoulder to signal him to step back, but Kylan only tightened his hold on his son and asked, You said Emily is still alive? Where did you see her? The man panted, sweat rolling down his temples. I was being hunted by Marcus. He thought I betrayed him because I knew too much. I ran. I thought I was going to die. If not for her? Her? Kylan's voice trembled in a way he couldn't control. The man nodded. Emily found me when I was bleeding out. She saved me and dragged me to a hideout in the Timberline Ridge Mountains. Jordan's eyes widened. She's living in the mountains? The man continued. No one knows. She lives like a ghost. She hides during the day, and at night she searches for evidence of Marcus's crimes. He swallowed hard and looked straight at Kylan. She's doing all of this to clear her father's name and to protect you. Kylan's entire body froze. His heart felt like it was about to tear out of his chest. He listened as if he had forgotten how to breathe. What did she say about me? Kylan whispered. The man lowered his head. That you must not be dragged into this, because if you ever found out she had been forced to betray you, you would hurt more than anyone. Jordan glanced at Kylan. Kylan's face was deathly pale, his eyes red with held-back agony. At that moment, the baby in Kylan's arms began to cry, the sound echoing through the room like a knife through the heart. The man looked at the child, his voice breaking. She misses her baby terribly, but she said she had to disappear, otherwise Marcus would kill him. Kylan closed his eyes. The truth cut into his soul like a blade. Emily didn't leave him because she wanted to. She left him to protect their son, to protect him, to protect everything. The evidence Marcus had sent, the threatening messages, the USB drives Emily had handed over, they weren't betrayal. They were coercion, desperation, the price she had paid to keep his family safe. Kylan opened his eyes again, his gaze sharp like burning steel. Where is she on Timberline Ridge? The man pulled out a small map, torn and weather-beaten by snow and rain. A cabin on the northern slope. Take the third trail. She'll hear a car coming. But you must be careful. Marcus is hunting her too. Jordan clenched his fists. Damn it. He wants to silence everyone who knows the truth. The man looked straight at Kylan. She's running out of strength. You have to go before it's too late. Kylan crushed the map in his hand, his other arm holding his son tightly to his chest like his last hope in life. His voice was hoarse, full of pain yet unshakable. Emily, you protected me. Now it's my turn to protect you. Jordan stood up. I'm going with you. Kylan shook his head. No, you stay here and take care of my son. If I fail, he'll only have you left. Jordan choked. You're sure? Kylan lifted his gaze, cold and resolute like a warrior stepping into his final battle. I will bring Emily back, no matter the cost. He turned away, put on his jacket, and grabbed his car keys. The baby in Jordan's arms kept crying, a faint, fragile first call echoing through the room. Ma! Kylan stopped, pressed his lips together. His heart felt crushed. Wait for me, Emily, he whispered into the empty air. I'm coming. And the door closed behind him, opening onto the most dangerous journey of the fallen king's life. The night wind on Timberline Ridge was sharp as a blade, cutting through the dense canopy of trees. In the depths of that pitch-black darkness, a small wooden cabin stood like a lonely dot, the place where Emily had been hiding, alone, unknown, unprotected by anyone. From the outside, it looked peaceful. But inside, it was a battlefield. Maps, USB drives, shredded documents, burner phones scattered across the table. A laptop flickered non-stop with red warning letters. Access denied. Firewall detected. Emily clenched her fists. She had managed to uncover fragments of the Black Ledger, Marcus's secret criminal record. But the more she found, the more viciously she was hunted. And tonight, he had found her trail again. Ash! The click of a gun outside. Emily jolted upright. She shut off every light and rushed to the small window. Through the snow-choked darkness, armed silhouettes were advancing toward the cabin. Marcus's men. Again. Emily held her breath. She pulled the dagger from beneath her mattress and slung the document bag over her shoulder. One of them shouted, "Search everything! She's got to be nearby. This time, when we catch her, we don't let her live." Emily ground her teeth. Her heart pounded violently in her chest. The back door. She crouched low and slipped through the narrow rear exit, snow crunching under her boots. A thunderous boom. The front door of the cabin was blown apart. Emily sprinted into the forest, each breath burning her throat. Bullets screamed through the air. She's there! Heading north! Emily rolled down a muddy, snow-covered slope, dodging a bullet that tore past her head. Another round slammed into a tree just inches from her face. She scrambled up, ducked behind a boulder, and ripped her sleeve to bind the blood streaming from her upper arm. A flashlight beam swept across the dark. This girl's tough as a leech! Kill her! Don't let her survive. Emily bit her lip until it bled. No, She could not die. Not now. She still had her father, her son, Kylan, and the man she had sworn to bring down, Marcus, the chase at the mountain peak. Emily crawled low, slipping through narrow rock crevices, following the trail she had memorized for months. The shadows behind her kept closing in. She glanced at her watch, 1:37 a.m. This was usually when Marcus changed his guard shifts. If she could break through for 30 minutes, she would live. But tonight felt different. A man suddenly stepped into her path. He smiled coldly. "Hello, sweetheart. The boss sends his regards." He raised his gun. Emily shut her eyes for 1 second, then charged straight at him. Her knee slammed into his ribs, her dagger knocked the rifle aside, and her elbow crushed into his jaw. The man staggered back, reeling. Emily vanished again like a ghost. Final escape! And the first sign of Kylan. While running deeper into the forest, Emily heard the distant roar of a car engine. A vehicle driving into Timberline Ridge at this hour? Not locals, not forest patrol. Her heart lurched. Was it Marcus? Or she didn't dare hope. Then a drone swooped down from above, bathing the forest in a cold white beam. "Little mouse, found you." A man's voice crackled from the drone speaker, followed by eerie laughter. Emily ran at full speed. A laser sight trailed her back. Half a second slower, and she would be dead. She hurled herself down a slick snow slope and tumbled violently into a tree trunk. Pain exploded through her body. Her ears rang. Sound faded. She forced herself upright. Blinding headlights. A car burst into view and slammed to a stop, snow spraying into the air. The door flew open. A deep, familiar voice, broken with pain and disbelief, called out, "Emily, get in the car." Emily froze. Her eyes widened, breath hitching. "Ke? Kylan?" No time to think. No time for questions. Gunfire erupted behind them. Kylan leapt forward and grabbed her hand. "There's no time. Get in the car, now!" Emily let her body fall into his arms, the man she thought she would never see again. The doors slammed shut. The car roared down the slope, leaving behind gunshots, Marcus's men shouting, and the cabin where Emily had lived like a ghost for half a year. Kylan looked at her, his voice trembling. You're alive." Emily broke down silently in tears. They both knew this reunion was not the end. It was the beginning of the final war. Kylan's car tore down the rugged mountain road as if death itself were chasing it. Gunfire still echoed behind them, but the distance was finally widening. Kylan's grip on the steering wheel was bone white, his eyes locked on the road ahead. Emily sat in the passenger seat, breathing in ragged gasps, her whole body trembling from blood loss and sheer terror. She still hadn't recovered, and she didn't know what to say to the man she had just met again, in the middle of hell. Kylan glanced at her for a split second. "You're hurt." Emily shook her head, her voice hoarse and weak. It just grazed me." But Kylan could clearly see the blood soaking through her shirt. He ground his teeth. "We're stopping." "No, if we stop, they'll catch up. Keep driving." Kylan burst out, his voice breaking. "Do you want to die again?" Emily fell silent. Kylan's voice cracked completely. "You disappeared twice. Both times I felt like I lost my entire world." Emily turned her face away as tears fell onto her lap. No one spoke for 10 minutes. Finally, Kylan turned into an abandoned house in a deserted hunting area. He pulled Emily inside, bolted the door, and switched on a small flashlight. The light flared up, illuminating his face, and Emily saw it. He had aged so much, no longer the radiant king of the court, but an exhausted father, a man who had been broken, yet had not fallen. Kylan opened the first aid kit, his hands trembling as he bandaged Emily's wound. She whispered, "You shouldn't have come here." Kylan let out a laugh, so painful it cut to the bone. "I gave up my entire career to find you. Do you really think I'd stop at Timberline Ridge?" Emily's tears poured down. "Kylan, I hurt you. I lied to you. Marcus sent you everything already, didn't he?" Kylan tightened the bandage, his voice dropping low. "I received it." Emily lowered her head, her shoulders shaking. "I didn't want to, but if I hadn't done it, my father would have died. If I hadn't left, our son would have been kidnapped. If I hadn't disappeared, you would have." Her voice broke completely. Kylan knelt in front of her, staring straight into her tear-soaked eyes. "Emily, tell me, of everything you were forced to do, was there even one thing you truly wanted to do?" Emily shook her head violently, sobbing. "No, nothing at all. I never wanted to betray you. Never wanted to hurt you. I only wanted you to live." Kylan took a deep breath. He lifted his hand to her cheek, wiping away the burning tears with his thumb. Then why? Didn't you let me fight alongside you? Emily looked up, her red, shattered eyes trembling. Because you are everything I have, and I couldn't lose you. That sentence pierced straight through every doubt, every wound, every torment Kylan had carried for 6 months. He pulled Emily into his arms, holding her as if she might disappear again. Emily buried her face against his shoulder, gripping his shirt like clinging to the last lifeline in a storm. Kylan, I'm sorry. I'm sorry for leaving you behind. I'm sorry for making you raise our child alone. I'm sorry for hurting you. Kylan placed his hand on the back of her neck and whispered into her hair. Emily, the most painful thing wasn't that you left. The most painful thing was that you thought I wouldn't forgive you. Emily's body trembled in his arms. She sobbed softly. Do you still want me? Kylan looked deep into her eyes. I never stopped wanting you, not for a single second. The abandoned house fell silent. Two people once torn apart by lies, despair, and darkness had finally found their way back to each other's hearts. Emily spoke quietly, her voice trembling yet resolute. I'll tell you everything about Marcus, about the Black Ledger, about why I had to live like a ghost on this mountain. Kylan tightened his grip on her hand, and I'll help you end all of it. Outside, snow fell in white silence. Inside, two hearts once shattered were slowly stitching themselves back together. The final war was waiting for them. The wind on the slopes of Timberline Ridge howled so fiercely it felt as if it might tear the cabin apart. Inside, the air had grown heavy and suffocating. Emily spread out all the evidence she had gathered over the past year across the table: blurred wire transfer receipts, leaked audio recordings, the Black Ledger, and a list of the shell companies Marcus used to launder money. Kylan stood beside her, silent but with sharp, focused eyes. No longer a fallen basketball star, now a man with purpose, a warrior preparing for war. Emily pointed to one page of data. This is the strongest evidence, the Black Ledger. It records every transaction Marcus used to manipulate the market and destroy my father. Kylan frowned. But one copy isn't enough. Marcus will just claim it's fake. Emily nodded. That's why we need the original. The silence thickened like storm clouds. Kylan narrowed his eyes. Where is it? Emily replied. Blackstone Tower, basement level 3, maximum security. Kylan gave a low, disbelieving laugh. You say that like I've never broken into anywhere before. Emily shot him a look. You're a basketball player, not a spy? I'm the man who just saved you from over a dozen armed thugs. Emily fell silent. He had a point, and that thought alone made her chest tighten. She inhaled deeply. Tonight, we go in. Had to break in. Night swallowed the city in a sheet of darkness. They rode in an old pickup truck, blending in with construction traffic to avoid drawing attention. Kylan inspected the stun gun Emily had handed him. He raised a brow. This is all you're equipping me with? They have real guns, and you're not allowed to shoot anyone, Emily said, almost teasing. You're a public figure. Kylan smirked. Then I'm our close combat weapon. Emily stared at him, her gaze filled with unspoken fear, admiration, and something deeper. You've always been the strongest weapon I have, Kylan. He reached over, squeezing her hand. And you're the only reason I fight. The security cameras glitched and slowed as their signal was hacked. Emily moved carefully, unlocking door after door with precise motions. Kylan stayed behind her, shielding her at every turn. A steel door slid open. Click. Emily's face drained of color. Damn it! A secondary alarm system. Before they could move, bang! 6 of Marcus's men emerged from both corridors. Emily hissed, Kylan, watch out! One man grabbed Kylan's shoulder, but Kylan spun, drove a crushing punch straight into his jaw, and sent him crashing into the wall. Emily ducked as another lunged toward her. She swept his legs, pinned him down, and locked his neck with her elbow. 3 more came at once. Kylan fired the stun gun. One man convulsed and dropped. The second swung a baton, but Kylan blocked it with his forearm, twisted, and slammed him onto the concrete. The last man pulled a knife. Before he could strike, Emily darted forward like lightning. Her fingers caught his wrist, twisted sharply, and tore the blade from his hand. He screamed and fled into the darkness. Emily leaned against the wall, panting. Kylan grabbed her shoulders, scanning her face. Are you okay? Emily nodded, sweat glistening on her brow. We have to hurry. The archive is at the end of the hall. The safe, the final door opened. Inside the archive room, dim emergency lighting cast everything in red tones. In the center sat a titanium safe, untouchable, impenetrable, ominous. Kylan examined the lock. Can you open it? Emily stepped closer, her fingers already moving. Marcus trusted me with this once, but he never knew I memorized the code. Her hands danced over the keypad. The tension in the room thickened. Kylan could hear only two things: Emily's soft breaths and the pounding of his own heart. Then click. The safe unlocked. The door cracked open. Inside lay the original black ledger, their key to destroying Marcus, their key to freedom. Emily reached inside, and a laser sight landed on her forehead. The safe swung open, revealing the original black ledger encrypted USB drives, handwritten notebooks of illegal operations, a list of Marcus's secret partners. Emily's hands trembled. A full year of running, fighting, surviving, all of it for this moment. Kylan, we did it. Kylan took her hand, his voice low and steady. We end him tonight. Emily nodded firmly. We send everything to the media, bypass the police, she said. Marcus has too much power inside the legal system. Only public exposure, with the entire country watching, can bring him down. Kylan smiled faintly. I know exactly who to send it to. As they prepared to leave the building, Kylan's phone vibrated. Caller ID, unknown. He answered. Having fun, nephew? Marcus. His voice oozed like poison through the line. Kylan, you've stepped onto my battlefield. Emily tightened her grip on Kylan's hand, her heart pounding in her throat. Marcus continued. You think you're leaving that building alive? A low laugh followed. I'm standing on the rooftop right now, and I can see every single move you make. Kylan narrowed his eyes and pulled Emily closer to him. If you touch her one more time, I'll be the one who puts you in the ground. Marcus laughed loudly. It's been a long time since a Drexler dared to challenge me. Very well, let's see whether love is stronger than power. Bang! The lights across the building shut off at once. The alarm siren screamed. Footsteps thundered in from every direction. Emily grabbed Kylan's hand. We have to get out of here, now. Kylan nodded, his eyes blazing. We're not running anymore, Emily. We end him. Together, they plunged into the darkness, and the final war officially began. The cabin on the mountaintop was swallowed by darkness. No phone signal, no reception. Only the shrill wind screaming through the cracks in the door, the sound of something terrible drawing near. Kylan pressed his back against the wall, keeping Emily behind him. Outside, shadows surrounded the cabin. Flashlights flared through the pine forest. Marcus's voice rang out, calm, smooth, and deadly cold. Emily, I gave you 3 years to prove your usefulness. Now it's enough. Hand over the evidence. Emily bit her lip, her hands trembling. Not out of fear for herself, but because Kylan was right here. Marcus gave a signal. Metal clicked as safety catches were released. Kylan tightened his grip on Emily's hand. There's no way I'm letting you face this alone ever again. Emily shook her head slightly. If something happens to you, how will our child survive? Kylan choked. Losing her once had shattered him. This time, he would rather die than watch her disappear again. The back window exploded inward. Kylan spun, wrapping his arms around Emily and throwing them both to the floor just as a spray of bullets ripped through the roof. Run! He dragged her up and sprinted down the narrow hallway at the back of the cabin. One of the men blocked the way. Kylan didn't hesitate. He drove a brutal punch into the man's jaw, snatched the gun, and pulled Emily down the mountainside. Gunfire followed. A bullet grazed Kylan's shoulder, blood spraying in a bright streak. Emily screamed, Kylan! He gritted his teeth. I'm fine. Keep running. They tore across a dry streambed, mud and gravel flying under their feet, lungs burning. Behind them, Marcus descended the stone steps calmly, flashlight in hand, like a hunter who knew his prey had nowhere left to run. You really think you're good enough to bring me down, Emily? Emily turned back and shouted, I have all the evidence! You can't escape anymore! Marcus laughed. All the evidence in the world means nothing without your lives. Kylan pulled Emily behind a massive rock at the bottom of the valley. He was gasping, blood soaking his shoulder, but his eyes still blazed with undying resolve. Do you still have the hard drive? Kylan asked. Emily nodded. It has everything. Everything needed to end him. Kylan cupped her cheek. Then we have to live. We have to bring it into the light. Emily's voice broke. I'm sorry. I'm sorry for everything I put you through. Kylan shook his head. None of that matters anymore. After tonight, we stop running. In the distance, engines roared. Another hit squad was closing in. Kylan scanned the area, then seized her hand tightly. Emily, Run to the broadcast relay on the hill. Upload the drive from there. I'll hold them off. No, you're bleeding. You can't. Kylan pressed his forehead against hers. I survived this long because I believed in you. Let me protect you properly. Just this once. 1 second, then they kissed, trembling, desperate, but full of hope. Emily ran uphill. Kylan turned to face 3 assassins. A kick, a punch, a gunshot. He fought like a man who had already lost everything once and would not lose again. Gunfire thundered. Emily ran, crying as she ran, terror strangling her heart. She reached the broadcast station, hands shaking as she plugged the hard drive into the system. 1 button remained. Upload to all U.S. media networks? She took a deep breath, pressed it. The data began to transmit. Marcus's crimes, money laundering, bribery, contract manipulation, destroying her father's company, ordering assaults, everything. The moment the progress bar hit 100%, Marcus stood behind her. It's over, Emily. She spun around and saw Kylan collapsed on the ground dozens of meters away, blood soaking his shirt crimson. No, Kylan! Marcus raised his gun. Save him or save yourself? Choose. Emily stepped in front of Kylan. Kill me, but the data is already across the entire United States. You've lost, Marcus. Marcus frowned. Suddenly, the roar of helicopter blades tore through the sky. The FBI, federal police, tactical units. One agent shouted, Marcus Hale, you are under arrest for organized crime, money laundering, and conspiracy to commit murder. Marcus was slammed to the ground. The cold snap of handcuffs ended his empire. Emily dropped to her knees, cradling Kylan. Please, don't close your eyes. Don't leave me. I love you. I love you. Kylan opened his eyes and smiled weakly. At last, you finally said it. Emily broke down completely, clutching him to her chest. The night on the mountaintop was freezing, but the hearts of the 2 of them burned hotter than ever. 3 months later, Kylan walked out of the recovery ward, carrying his baby in his arms. Emily walked beside him, fingers intertwined with his. Marcus's crimes were exposed, clearing her father's name. Kylan's company recovered after he publicly revealed the truth. At the biggest press conference of the season, Kylan said, I didn't abandon my title. I simply chose something more important, my family. Emily looked at him. He looked at her. The entire stadium erupted. The fallen king stood again for love. Thank you all for accompanying us all the way through The Fallen King, a heartbreaking basketball romance story on the Ambiguous Heart channel. If this story moved you and you enjoyed it, don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you won't miss our next emotional, dramatic, and action-packed series. See you in the upcoming stories.